Brett, I'm sorry. Right there.
Thank you. Well, as a Sunday school class in Journeys, we discussed this, and we were all agreed that, again, what we do very well. We have very vital worship services. But I found it very interesting that when the question was posed, do we need another form of worship service, that it was kind of overwhelmingly no. And I guess why that bothers me is we're getting what we need. This is kind of, we have 2 worship services that we love, but we're missing that and nominally religious part. Are we providing what perhaps someone else needs? So, yes, we have vital worship, but in a variety of settings, maybe no. So, a 3.
3. Okay. Who else?
I'm not sure where we stand on this question. We have a lot of people in our congregation that see things differently from each other. And being one of the older ones, there's a lot of change that we need to make to accommodate the views of other people that doesn't go well with me, I like the old pulpit pounding preacher, and I haven't been able to get Betsy to pound the pulpit yet, but she's doing some things that kind of get the job done in the same respect. But we have people in the congregation that like a more contemporary type service, which we don't have, and we probably need to find a way to accommodate that. I had the opportunity to see a totally different kind of worship service this past Sunday, and it's not one that I would prefer, but I enjoyed it simply because those people were so darn sincere. Their feelings showed, and they made no bones about it, and I like that. I like that, but I think that I don't know that if we enjoy a vital service in a variety of settings, we're getting some of that, and I think that most people are accepting that and taking that in a good fashion, and not always enjoying all of it, but enjoying most of it and get meaningful worship out of it.
So a score for us.
Score? I'd say we're at about a 3.
3. Okay. Who else? Wait.
I'm going to say a 7. And of course, church worship service is always great. It's wonderful. But also, I feel like there's a number of other places that we worship. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the church. We went on a picnic today with our Bible class, Sunday school class, and it was a form of worship. It just felt like we were all close. So, I think there's a lot of different settings that worship can be in. It doesn't necessarily have to be in service. Sunday school, same thing, in our Sunday school. So I think it's a 7.
Thank you. Others? Other thoughts? This one's... Yeah, I want to remind folks that are watching online that you can ask questions too. Steve Bonds has a microphone ready to project your thoughts. Well, type it in and he can read it. Right here.
My name is Matthew, and we're just a young professional couple right now. We're just repeat visitors, but we're interested in becoming members. And my perspective on this is that we do a great job here having a more traditional worship service, which is what appeals to us, and that the contemporary service we have is also very vital and approachable to somebody that both likes contemporary and traditional worship. And I may not be familiar, we might do something like this already, but to me, one thing I can see in this question by a variety of settings is to bring the worship outside of the church to a setting where the unchurched could come. You know, I'm envisioning something like at the outdoors, like at the River Market Pavilion, where it's open, it's not at a regular worship time, and maybe something you would do quarterly. You know, like have you're not having to come into a church building, because for a lot of people that haven't been to church, there's that threshold of coming in and being barraged, you know, and having no walls where you can, I mean, I felt very welcome myself, but just this is a perspective I could see where we could reach more people if we had it in a setting outside of the church on occasion.
Okay, so a score for us.
I would give us a 7.
7. Okay. Others? This one's rich for interpretation.
I told myself when I came I wasn't going to say something on everyone, but I guess I can't let this go by without
There's
saying it.
nothing wrong with that. That's why we're here.
No one entity can meet the needs of all people. I think we need to deal with that. I think the church needs to decide what it does well and do that to the best of our ability and maintain the high quality standards that we have. We've tried other forms of worship and we're back to, you know, essentially a traditional worship service. I'm not interested in doing anything else, but, you know, if people are interested in doing other things, then that's fine. But I think the bottom line for me is that we can't be everything. We need to find out what we do and do well. And I want to give us an 8.
An 8. Okay. Other thoughts?
I certainly agree with Charles. The challenge that you run into is we serve a broad spectrum of the public. And although there are those that really like our traditional service, there are younger people that want something different. It's just human nature. It's the way things go. And so if you don't speak to the needs of other population groups, younger people, then you don't capture them to have them grow up in a church as we did years ago. So I think, you know, we have a brand here as a traditional service. We have had that brand as long as Trinity's been here. But other churches that have had that brand too have reached out and created a different style to attract different people, younger people or those that want a different style. So as much as we've said our brand is a traditional service, we at least have to think about, do we want to provide an opportunity for those that are in our neighborhood to be attracted to something that might be different than what we're used to.
And how would you rate us on this?
I'd say we're 3.
Okay. Other thoughts? Down. There we go. You can go ahead and take one back there.
Hi, Paul again. For me, it's a difficult question because I think Enjoy Vital Worship is very good. The worship service, the traditional worship service is outstanding. Variety of settings, so far, I don't see that at all. So, and I was just thinking, as some of the other folks were talking, that the last question we were struggling with small groups for young people or young adults. I think the two are connected. That perhaps we're having more of a problem with getting younger adults right out of college engaged because we don't have a different kind of worship service. I wonder if those two go together. So I have a hard time. I'd take it 7 or an 8, but because one's real high and one basically isn't there.
Okay. I think I saw a hand back here somewhere.
My comment's going to be rather simple. Mike Matthews. I think 3 is way too low, and I'm not sure if 7 or 8's too high, so I'm going to take the middle ground and 5.
Okay. Other differing thoughts?
Well, I've been sitting here thinking that one of the things we haven't even talked about is like a single worship service, not something that would necessarily be every week, but you know, we've got our Christmas worship service and all that, and they're kind of freestanding. And I wonder how much we could come up with outdoor settings sorts where it might not be every week, but it could be there, and I think a lot of people might enjoy something different, but we don't have the space maybe to do it every week.
So where would you?
Number for the variety of settings. We don't have variety of settings. Probably a 5 or a 6.
6. Okay. Anyone else? All right, help me out, Susan.
3 7s, 3 3s, 1 8, 1 5, and 1 6.
Kind of all over the place. So after listening, and obviously this one's just rich with ways that you can interpret it, and it spawned great discussion. Who thinks we're 7 or higher in this? All right. Who thinks we're 3 or lower? All right. And 5. Vast majority of 5. All right. Vast majority. All right. Let's have an active children's and youth ministry. Have an active children's and youth ministry.
A 10.
A 10. All right.
You know, I mean, not only do I see the numbers, I see the membership, the parents behind both areas, the leadership.
Good. Thanks. Others?
You want to go?
Go ahead, Stacy, and Tim will
Okay.
let
Hi, Stacy. So, my issue with this is I have to not compare it to what I've literally seen here for the last 40 years. And when I think about when I was in children's ministry, and particularly youth ministry, it is much smaller scale. I don't know that it's any less active. I don't think it's any less impactful, but it's a much smaller scale. We actually had to split up junior and senior high because there were too many of us to be together. So in that regard, I tend to lower my number a little, but when I think about where it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we are exponentially better. We have recovered a little bit. So from the activity part, the commitment to it, I tend toward a 7. I do think there are more things that we in the church and adults in the church could be doing to support those ministries. As someone who tends to look at it from the outside because I'm involved in other stuff, it seems these same people do all the same things. And I think there's more opportunity for people to get engaged there. But I think the ministries are strong, so I would sit it at a 7.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to say that if we separate them, our children's program is outstanding. I mean, it might even get a 10. It's really, really active. Our youth ministry, I know a number of people that have left the church because it did not meet their needs at all. And so they went to a different church that better met the need of their teenagers. So, and I'm not involved in it personally, so I don't know how much depth there might be within the program, but I know a lot of teenagers that it has not met their needs. So if we lump them together, it's probably a 5. If we separate them, it would probably be a 10 and a 3 or something, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, I'll echo the 10 for children's, because Paul's right there. No, because I have a child that's actively involved, and we are here because of the children's ministry. I'm going to give it an 8 overall, because I feel like Stacy that we are not supporting our children's ministry and our youth ministry enough. Our youth ministry is right now, to me, and what I've seen, we're on the precipice of now again needing to split, because our junior and senior high, or middle school and senior high, however you divide it, they're too large. And so if we don't do something about that, we're going to lose people. And, you know, I see people coming back after a mass exodus of youth. And if we don't do something to support that youth ministry, we're going to be a 2.
Okay.
I think that, I'm Georgiana. I think I'm going to echo Melissa. I don't know the numbers in youth. I know that our youth program tries to work with kids age 12 to 18. That's a huge age range, and it can't be done under one program, I don't think. So I think financially we need to support the idea of dividing that. I think the children's ministry is wonderful. Paul's got incredible energy and incredible ideas. I think there's some things lacking in it. Children's choir, for example, some other things that could be a draw for our children. So I can't give it a 10. I think 8 might be a little high. I'll go with 7.
Okay.
Cherry, I've been here quite a while too, and used to be very involved in youth ministry. I think children, I separate totally the children's program from the youth, as has been said already, but to me, when things started taking a different shape, and I got to admit, I do not know the numbers or the activity right now, but we went through a period of time when virtually none of the parents of these older children were involved. And like, if we had kids in junior high, we worked with senior high. And if we had senior high, I don't think it's a good idea for your mom or dad to be the person there every Sunday either. But I don't see that, and I see more and more of it, you know, like, well, we've got staff for that. We've got staff for that. Well, staff's one person, and that's not giving staff or the youth support. And from experience, I can tell you, the larger you make that age range, the less successful it's going to be, because the older ones will start disappearing on you. No 12th grader has much interest in doing activities with a 7th grader, and it's just not going to work. And the younger ones are intimidated by the older ones sometime, and that keeps them away, and they won't come. And I think it's got to be addressed as totally separate issues.
So,
I've got to rate it. Do I have to rate them together? If I can rate them separately, I would rate our children's program probably in an 8. And if I was doing the youth ministry overall from the standpoint of support, I would probably rate us a 4 or 5.
Okay. Please.
Okay, I'm Mary Gay. Sorry, I had to come down from upstairs. I actually have a youth. My second one's going through right now. The one difference, and I was in youth group at this church too, so been here a little while. The difference I see in our youth group is their depth of spirituality. There are no cliques in our youth group. You talk to any single one child, no cliques whatsoever. I've been up here, there's been kids that don't go to church here. They are welcomed in. Some of them, it's the only church they you ask them their 2 favorite trips. They go on 4 trips a year. Their 2 favorite trips, the mission trip and the winter retreat. It's amazing what Jay's been able to do. The other thing is we did have parents that were involved, but what Jay's been able to do is recruit young couples to come in and be mentors to these kids, and they love it. So I just want to thank Jay for all he does. I think there is a lot that we can do. He does a lot with the limited resources, but I would probably rate us, based on my child, she would say it's a 10. She does not want to miss.
Thank you. So a couple over here.
Well, I'm really just echoing a lot of what's been said, but I've been told countless times that parents are here because of the children's program, and I think both programs are wonderful. However, I do believe that maybe there's that age band, to echo Cherry, and that the older kids perhaps need to be split off just because their needs are different. But overall, rating it, I think it should be high in this category. So an 8.
Okay. Carson.
I have a bias that I want to talk about. But overall, I think I would rate our programs, 8 or 9. I think Paul and Jay do an excellent job at providing the ministry to our children and youth. But my bias is music program. I wish we had an outstanding children's music program and youth music program. And that's my bias growing up in just loving to sing and having the opportunity to do that in church. And I would like our programs to have the opportunity that I had. So, but that has nothing to do, I guess, with the question, but my bias has been stated. Thank you.
A score?
8.
8. Thank
you.
And I'm Mike, and I agree with Doug. If I look at this and look at the word active, I think we do have a very active program that's not necessarily a quantity. It doesn't have to be a huge number. Having a son like Mary Gay, having a son, going through this right now, he loves the things that he has an opportunity to do from a youth perspective. But if I look overall, then at the last word there is a ministry. We certainly have that ministry with your traditional youth programs, but from a music and in different areas, I think we have to say that we could have some improvements there. So I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Right behind you.
I would go along with an 8 and think we could get that up to a 9 or a 10, bringing up the activity level if we had some kind of scholarships or community aid increase so that, say, some of the neighborhood youth could go on the mission trips or the ski trips, or more scholarships for the day school.
Okay.
Cherry again. I just wanted to add one thing on the music that keeps coming up. I do think that when the youth programs and the older youth programs were so active and so well attended, and then we had many youth that were not members or their parents weren't members here. But the music program was a great asset to that, and for lack of just a other term, it was a great feeder for the overall program. And some of those kids ultimately and parents joined the church, but it has a definite positive impact on having programs like that.
Okay. Please.
I'm Amanda Richardson, and I'm late, but I'm here. And I'm so glad I walked in on this question. Jay, of course, I know firsthand what youth ministry is at this church and how it's grown and gone through ebbs and flows. And I don't want to talk specifically about that, but on the music side, and as somebody who grew up in this church as a youth, this youth ministry lost me as a youth because our music ministry was falling, and there were churches that could compete with that music ministry. So there were churches that gained me as a youth on Sunday nights that had nothing to do with the music ministry side of it because of their music ministry geared towards youth. So if I could give it a number, I would say a 7, because I think there's an opportunity for music ministry to grow our youth ministry and our children's ministry.
Jay, go ahead.
I'm Jay, and I'm the youth minister here, but I just wanted to throw out, not really trying to defend myself by any means, but just so everybody knows, the last count when we had junior high and senior high all together, we had a big event where majority of the kids could come. We had 51 show up. So we've got a pretty decent amount of kids. We've got 6 counselors, 2 parents, and the rest are married couples. But just, I want to throw those numbers out to you, but I will throw out for Mr. Paul, knowing how hard he works and how hard it is to get recruiting help for those age groups and all the programs that he provides, so much of it him doing himself. I would definitely give him a 10. I think for myself, I know I'm kind of at that place where I was 7 years ago when I was here before, with the amount of group that we had. I had some kids go, one day I was bringing a bunch of kids home, and the junior high, 6th, 7th were hanging, what they were doing that afternoon, and a couple of them were like, oh, we're going to go hop on our, back then Razor scooter was the big thing, and they were going to go hop on their scooter and ride around the neighborhood. And I remember thinking, oh, that's cool, and then asking some of the senior highs, they loaded out in their cars what they were doing, and oh, so-and-so's having a party over at their house, so-and-so's having a party over there. And I remember just thinking, they are so incredibly opposite, it's not even funny. And it was about that time, and so I'm going to give my little plug here, about that time that y'all allowed me to hire Raven. And we grew our group from where we were at that time, about 40 to 50 consistently, to about 70 or 80 consistently. And so I would say on mine, I got room to grow. But
all right. So I heard, go ahead, Bob.
Well, I just want to say, as having a parent having kids in all 3 of these groups, junior high, high school, and children's ministry, boy, that's fun. I think that the youth program really does a very good job. I would like to see more music activities for that group, but we're starting with handbills in that group, and I think we're starting to move in that direction. And Paul is Paul. I don't know that we can say any more than that. I would give the programs a 9.
A 9. All right. One more.
I have 5 great-grandchildren involved in the children and youth program here at this point. And watching my 5-year-old great-granddaughter shake those bells this morning, it was a sight to behold, with the look on her face so serious and just shaking those bells so enthusiastically. That bell choir has added another dimension to our children's ministry, and I believe it's beginning in the youth ministry. And I think that we're doing, there are some gaps. There are some gaps that we need to cover, and we need more resources in that in the children's and youth area. The youth and their sponsors, volunteers, have raised most of the money that they have spent over the last several years, and I think they need a little more budget support, and so we need to up our budget a little bit to support them.
What's our rank in your mind?
I think an 8 is a good rank for it.
Okay. One more, and then I've got to move on. One more. Right here, right here, right here, right here, right here.
I'm all for the music program. That's my thing. But I want to say, I think other children need other kinds of activities, ways to discover themselves and to develop leadership, art activities, speaking, drama, whatever can help them develop their own talents. And I'm all for the music program.
So what do you rate?
Oh, 7.
A 7. All right. I heard lots of 8s. Susan, sounded like 6 8s.
4, 5, 7. 110.
So how many 8 8, I'll combine 7, 8 together. Much lower? Any lower than 7s? All right, let's just mark 7, 8. We'll move on. All right, next. Participate in mission projects beyond your local church setting. Participate in mission projects beyond.
I've got the mic.
Go ahead, please.
I'm going to rank us 7 because there are approximately individuals in the congregation that do weekly ministry at Brady, and that's outside our local church setting. So we need to get some credit for that. They need to get credit for that.
So what was the rating?
7.
7, thank you.
For me, this is another one of those things that I think we do a lot of it. We have a lot of opportunity for it. I don't think we have enough people take advantage of it and participate in it. So for participate, I probably give us more like a 4.
4.
We have plenty of opportunities and could find dozens more out in the world, but I don't know that we have as wide a participation as we should have.
Okay. Other thoughts? Right here.
I think our mission program is one of the strengths of this church, but I agree that there are comparatively few who are involved in that program. We also have foreign missions as well as our service to our house and as well as the activities at Brady School. And it's one of the things that makes this church shine, I think. But there's only a small nucleus of members of the church who are involved in those things. 6.
6, thank you.
No, I can't pass this up. This is Don Steele. We need approximately 200 volunteers at the Angel Tree at Park Plaza. 2 weeks ago, the Salvation Army gave me a printout of all of the individuals that filled those 200 slots. 75% of them came from Trinity. So there's more than just 20 volunteering at Brady. We have a lot of people of varying ages that do good things for the Salvation Army, and I appreciate it. And by the way, on the 27th, I'll start signing up for volunteers. I'd rate it an 8.
An 8. Others? What's in your own mind? That's the whole purpose of these, is to really engage different thinking. We don't want to over-define these. That's how you get the good debate.
I'm Arita, and when I think of mission projects, I think of our miracle team. And they are a group that does lots of different work outside the church. For instance, our mom, the dental clinic that's held, and it always has a high participants from Trinity. When you think of, I can't even think of all the other projects they do. And they're in the process of restructuring that committee so that they can expand how many people in this church participate. So I would rank us an 8.
An 8, okay. Coming behind you.
Mike Matthews. I am currently interim chair of the Miracle Team. I have been on it, I don't know how many years. Everyone that's on the Miracle Team right now has been on it, I don't know how many years. We need help. We need new blood, new bodies. We need greater participation. We've heard that already. But we need greater participation both on projects and as members of the team. So I guess if I were to rate what we're doing now in missions, I might give it a 7. Okay?
Okay.
And this is a plea for greater help.
Lots of advertising going on. That's good. Any? All right.
Oh, look at all kinds of projects.
All right. Anyone else on this one? Go ahead.
I think that we are calling ourselves too short. I think we do a good job. We might not. We get to talking about the children's programs, the other programs that you have mentioned, but everybody keeps calling us short. We do a fantastic job. Sure, there's always room for improvement. I wish that we could get back to where, before my time, when they had all the children. But we're working towards it. We're selling ourselves too short. We do the Salvation Army. We do the Brady reading buddy thing. We feed down there at our house. Miracle Team. We need more helpers for a music program. So let's figure out how we can communicate to our congregation and say, let's find some volunteers to head up some music programs. Let's advertise more helpers for Paul. Get somebody else to help Jay so he can split up the groups. You know, but this 3 and 4, 5 stuff, there's always improvement, but we do a damn good job right now.
So your rating? What's your rating?
I'm a 9.
A 9. Thank you.
Yeah, there's always
Sure.
I'm Greg, and I want to throw in a little plug for Trick or Trunk. I think we do a great job reaching out to the community around the church on Paul's and Jay's Trick or Trunk program. And I think the men's group has done a really great job helping to do the hot dogs and all the water and all the giveaways. And so I think we do a really good job on that, as well as the other things that have been pointed out already. So I'd give us an 8.
An 8. All right. So I heard right up here. Wait.
Well, basically, Greg already said it, but I wanted to say that I define mission projects as events like Trick or Trunk. Some of you also may not have been aware, because I didn't see a lot of you there, but at this back to school party, for example, that Paul did, almost, other than the people that were working the event, almost the entire group of people who were at that event were non-Trinity people. That is amazing. And last week too, we've had some of those people come back to worship. So those, not just projects, but also mission, I think in the mission field, as we'll maybe discover as we go through this process, and I'm probably jumping ahead, but I think that also is a part of this being out in the community, being visible in the community.
So your rating?
I think we're getting close to a 7.
7. All right. I heard a whole lot of 8s. So all those that are 8, let's say 8 or above, that's what I thought. And 6 or below. 1, 6 or below. All right. Let's go with 8. Next. Invite developing disciples into leadership. Invite developing disciples into Georgiana.
Having sat through a lay leadership meeting fairly recently, I went away and then fussed at myself because even in that setting, we did not consider as many new faces as I felt like we should have. So I say a 6.
6, okay. Who else? Jerry.
I think we sometimes suffer from the same thing I see in a lot of churches, that if you get somebody that'll agree to do something, you keep going back to the same people over and over again until, in a lot of cases, you just burn them out. And I see that here some too. I would probably give us a 5.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Nick.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that inviting people to go on the core trip, I think, is a good example of how we're trying to develop disciples into leadership, because it's a great way to do it. And I think we aggressively try to take people on that trip every year. We should keep that up.
So your score of our church on inviting developing disciples into leadership?
About a 7.
7? Okay.
I'll just mention that where we start that is in the 3rd grade when we talk to the children in Bible boot camp, that there's a place for you, and it's in leadership, in church leadership. And I just going through this last week, that's where it formally begins. And I don't know a Sunday that Reverend Betsy hasn't invited folks to Kansas City, which was amazing and wonderful. I love every bit of that. And for this meeting too, it's been over again reinforced how important it is to invite them. So I'm going to give us a 7.
7, okay.
And I think I've taken some groups. I mean, we've gone up to Core a couple of years ago and brought a pretty large youth attendance then, and to a couple of youth things where some of my youth counselors have gone and done that. And then I just think about all the times we've included. I mean, there's so many opportunities my youth group have been available to join in and help. I mean, we helped do all the manning for Paul's Trick or Trunk, and getting them to take leadership over those roles. They help out at the Angel Tree program. They've come to the on stewardship board. I know Christian, a couple others on stewardship board. And so, I mean, do a pretty decent job of inviting at least our youth group age, giving that option for them. They're so busy with so many other things, but a lot of them participate. So I'd give us about an 8.
Okay. Other thoughts? Anyone with disparate views?
I'm Kay. I'm a fairly new member and took Core this year and really enjoyed it, both the opportunity to listen to all the meetings and to meet some new folks. I'm rapidly getting my feet, knees, and neck into and give us some.
All right, in the back.
Karen Weber. I don't really have a differing point of view, but I want to say that I've been here about 2 years and became a member about a year ago. And during this entire time, I have been in many conversations with Betsy and others that have actively invited me to be things that I've been saying no. And then as time changed and events in my life changed, then I was invited to Core, and these conversations have encouragement has continued. So it's been persistent, but real, and not in a negative way. When I say persistent, I think just very real, and going along with me in my life events and figuring out when it was appropriate to invite me and discipling me as well. So I think you're doing a very good job of that. And I think core is a big, big piece of it. It was a really wonderful experience for me. So I would say an 8.
An 8. All right.
I would like to add something at this point. This young lady is going to be my successor the first of the year.
Oh. Now we're really marketing. Okay. 7, 8. So let's 8, 8s, 7s then. 7s and 8s together. That's the vast majority. Anyone want to argue for much lower? All right, 7s and 8s. I'm going to skip this one. Go to the next one, please. We're running low. This is on our participation in the Connectional Church. Involvement in the conference ministries through attendance, local church response to connectional ministries, and apportionments. I hear some giggles.
So, personally, I think we're pretty horrible at that. I think choice is pretty horrible at this. I happen to know, because I attend the Finance Committee meetings, we are not making our apportionment and haven't been for a little while. That's not necessarily been deliberate, it's been necessary. I don't know, we notice the conference ministries and things that are happening here, but I never hear about some huge bunch of something. I mean, I'm not casting stones. So I think as a church, I'd probably give us a 3. Pretty bad.
3. Down here.
That's probably about right. I do think there's a historical reason for that, too, in terms of the assignment of pastors in the past and some of the buildup of a negative history and a disillusionment with how the money is spent. And I've talked certainly with Nick and others about that, and I agree with that. I've had my moments of maybe the Episcopal Church has a better way of doing this. Like, I know David took a huge group from the choir to the ordination service and sang, and I really appreciated that. Paul takes the kids to the bishop's confirmation day, pushing just to do some more things with the youth, because I think I'd like to see our youth get a little more connectional with our system, because those are the future leaders. And one of the things that we heard at CORE was actually that they do start with 3rd grade, with tracking these kids and saying to them, or having them say to one another, who do you think in this group might be called to ministry someday, to set apart ministry? If we start with our kids that early, asking them to be seeds around, I do think that it's probably still a 3, but and I also think Marcia's presence here says that the conference is doing a better job of that. So 3 to 4.
Okay.
Well, I agree with 3. In fact, I might go with the 2. But based on history, and I think Betsy's comments summed that up pretty well, but as one who used to attend some of these things, a little bit in our defense, I've got to say they were just painful to sit through. And I never left thinking I had gained anything except lost a lot of time I could have used better. And so I think if we start seeing some of that change, that, the participation would be better.
Well, I had the opportunity to be at this last conference, and I think that is changing, Cherry. It was probably the first time in my entire life, and I've said this to some other people here, that I was so moved by Bishop Mueller's sermon that I literally wanted to jump up and down in the aisle. So I think there are changes coming because of his leadership. And I would love to comment on the apportionment, but I don't know that I fully understand it. However, I'm disappointed that we're not making them, because I think when we're going into a stewardship campaign locally, and like I said, I don't know the answers and understand it, but how can we not pay our apportionments but expect record tithing and stewardship in a local church? And they may be totally disconnected, but I'd love to find out.
So score.
Well, my experience would be high.
An 8? Okay. Please.
Well, I want to bounce off Cherry a little bit and ask Jay. I don't know firsthand the current state of our youth participating in conference ministries and if that's changed in 10 years, but 10 years ago, I could get one youth to go to a conference ministry opportunity with me over the course of the year. Has that grown any? Okay, good. Just checking to make sure we're talking from the same playbook. As a youth, conference ministries had a hugely transformational effect on my spiritual journey. So there are ministries out there for our youth and children that are not painful to sit through. I'm sure some of the stuff that you have to do as an adult could be time-consuming and painful. But there are some awesome conference opportunities that are out there for youth and children that are developing leadership and disciples and connect all the things we've been talking about today. And we're not taking advantage of those like we could be. And so I would say a 2.
2. All right, Jay, last one.
I'd agree. I'd say probably about a 2 to, well, I'll just give a number on it, about 2 from our perspective as well. And part of the deal is, and I agree, Amanda, as far as the connection, it has been, though, in our experience, and we're going to go, I think it's next Friday, a couple Sundays from this Sunday, there's actually another event that's come up, and that we're going to give it another swing. And every so often I try to do that with the kids and bring them to those events. It's just been really painfully hurtful for us as well. We went to one of the mission opportunities, and our kids jumped right in and working really, really hard. There was a lot of clickiness going on with the different youth groups and whatnot, and so they didn't enjoy it. So it was very hard to get me to pull them into going back to another event like that, but we're going to give it another swing here in a couple weeks. So we're making that effort.
You said a 2. So I heard 2s and 3s pretty much across the board. I did hear 1 8. So mostly 2s and 3s? Yes? Come on, help me out. Thank you. All right. Skip to next slide. One more. Implement a financial plan based on healthy financial practices. Implement a financial plan based on healthy financial practices.
Well, Richard just gave me the mic. I didn't even ask for it, so I guess I should speak.
See, Carson hadn't talked, so that's why I skipped to this one.
Thank you. Well, I've been finance chair the last 2 years, so I guess I should know a little bit about this. A financial plan based on healthy financial practices. There's this whole concept is a church, should it be run as a business or should it be run as a church? And I'm more familiar with the plan and financial practices in the commercial space. The way you run income and expenses, very tight controls on that. And in the world of the church, it's hard to sometimes understand your investment or your return on investment. For example, we've talked about missions and other things. Is our expenditure of money, and as a finance committee, is our use of monies, how do we quantify the return on that? And that's where a lot of times it's difficult. We've talked about apportionments. We've actually paid our 50% or more apportionments over the past, as long as I've been here at the church, as far as I know. So that previous slide, you could probably say, if you're looking at apportionments, we're a 5 or above because we've always paid 50% or higher. But anyway, with that said, I don't think we I think we have to come to some level of agreement with the staff and the congregation on balancing healthy financial practices with our priorities in things that are intangible on quantifying their results. So I'm going to give us a 5 here.
5, okay. Others?
Maine, I want to put in a plug for a new program that is being started, the endowment. We have implemented and developing an endowment program here, which has never been, and to make people aware that in the wills, we're not going out, it's not like trying to get the budget plan. We're not asking for money at this time. It's not a pressure thing, but it's to make people aware that there is a place that will be available in our church that persons can make donations that will help the development of the church in the future. And there will be something coming up at the time right before the Oasis, and there will be other programs coming up here in the near future that will explain the importance of having wills and trust, and how you might use those in the development of the church.
So what's your rating?
I would say now I'll give it a 5.
A 5, okay. Over here.
What I like about this is the last part of this statement, healthy financial practices. In the past 10 years, I don't think the area of energy management was even considered. Let me assure you, in today's world, energy management's an issue. The Trinity Methodist Church has never really addressed this issue. There is a great savings in energy cost, gas cost. You have to first put it to use to get the return on it. And I think it may in the future be mandated that institutions, even churches, participate in some form of an energy management program. And I have to be around a 5 on this issue.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to Carson's comments, and I think all of you are maybe taking the financial picture of the church in the history of the church into context here. But if we look at what the question says, implement a financial plan based upon healthy financial practices, regardless of what the amount of revenue or expenses that we've had to incur have been. I think, having served on that committee with Carson in charge and some other folks, that the financial practices we take are quite good. I mean, we have a lot of very capable and professional people who are using a lot of Band-Aids to keep a battleship going, and they do a great job with it. So I'm going to say this is more from the plan utilized.
Okay, an 8. All right, we're running low on time, and there's one other question I want to seed with you, and then we're going to pick it up at the very beginning of our next session. But I heard lots of 5s, so let me start with that. Only heard one as high as an 8, so 5s. Who's voting for higher than a 5? Okay, and then lower than a 5. Okay, so I'm going to say 5 is the predominant, and we're in the 8 category. All right, so slip 2 more slides. I want you all to think about this over the next month, and we're going to begin our session with your definition of what you consider our mission field to be. I was hoping we'd have about 10 minutes for that, but I don't want to start it because we've only got 1 minute left, and I promised you I wouldn't hold you over. If you stay with me 90 minutes, I wouldn't keep you any longer, and you've done that twice now. So think about this, and we'll pick up with this before we jump into the actual data portion of these reports. Now, let me tell you that we will be posting all of these reports on the website, so you can download them. Some of them are pretty lengthy, about 30 some odd pages. Several of them are 3 or 4, maybe 6 or 8 pages. But we'll put all of those on the website. You can download them. If you want hard copies, I'm sure you could come and ask for that at the office. I don't want to just print a bunch of them, okay? I think that would be a waste because some people will love reading this stuff and others will go, really, what's that mean? And that's why we're going to facilitate the dialogue and debate on this, because the quantitative stuff, the hard numbers, metrics, pretty simple to understand. The impressionistic stuff is going to be interesting. Now, so let me end with a commercial, since we heard a whole lot of those today, and as a facilitator, my coach would have spanked me for not closing some of that down, but that's okay. So here's my commercial for the day. If you would like to participate in assessing these reports, interpreting these reports, and then presenting your view of the report in the next session, please let me know, or Marcia or Betsy, and we'll get you engaged. We've already talked about some names, so if we don't get volunteers, I'll be tagging folks and twisting arms. But if you have an interest, let me know, and we'll get you participating. Thank you again. Wonderful attendance today, and wonderful engagement. Wow. I mean, it's very rare that a facilitator has to keep looking at a watch to speed things up. Usually, we can't get anybody engaged. And one thing that I failed to do at the beginning, and shame on me for that, was to start with a prayer. So if you don't mind, Betsy, would you end us with a prayer?
Absolutely, and that was actually what I was going to ask if I could do. And one other quick thing, again, here's the dates for the meetings, and please, it's not too late. Bring some other folks from your Sunday school classes and your other small groups next time. It just adds to the process so much. Thank you. Let us pray. Gracious God, I want to give you thanks for each and every disciple of Jesus Christ this day, to listen, to share, to really hear, and to hope, and to just look back at history as well as to ponder. So we thank you so much for this process and the journey that we're on. Help us to be patient, not to rush things, but to just let your Spirit guide us. And thank you so much for Nick and Marcia's leadership in this process as well. In the name of Christ, amen.
And everything was open. And I still can't. I was trying to get my skip over here and walk back.